Okay, it's just setting up to Facebook. So
we are now live.
Oh, are we? Because it doesn't say that here yet. So wonderful. Okay, so beautiful people, we have a special guest on live today. And I'm just going to share this to my page as well, so that we only have to do this once. So let's just see. Oh no, I might have to share it later. It's taking too much time. Fantastic. Okay, so Lisa, do you want to start by introducing yourself and letting us know a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. So my name is Lisa Gumieniuk, and I help women to ditch anxiety, stress, overwhelm, and more with ease, so that they can balance and boost their mental and emotional well-being, and ultimately so that they can thrive. Because a lot of people think that when they've got emotional challenges going on, whether that be anxiety, stress, depression, or grief, or overwhelm, that processing a lot of this and working through it is actually difficult and challenging. And look, sometimes it can be, because neuroscience is actually showing, and research is showing, that that talk therapy can actually be traumatizing, because the body doesn't know the difference between when an event or a trauma occurred and then when you talk about it. So I actually get a lot of people coming to see me who have done a lot of talk therapy and feel more traumatized. I'm like, I'm not getting better. I've been seeing these practitioners and these therapists for years, and I don't feel like I'm getting any better. And so what I do is I help them using a combination of really amazing tools and techniques, which a lot of it is based on the concept of energy psychology. So it's using, energy, we are energetic beings, and using this energetic component along with the psychology component to help process and shift experiences, emotions, limiting beliefs, and ultimately what's keeping people stuck or experiencing anxiety.
Yeah.
And so my background is that in 2012, I was on top of the world. Also, I thought. I was, in a corporate career. I was performing. I was winning awards at work. I won Outstanding Achievement Award, Employee of the Year. So all the staff members had voted for me for one award. All the senior management team had voted for me for another award. And, there were only 4 personal awards in this organisation out of over 1,000 people. In that 1 year, I received both of those. So it was really amazing. But then what happened was I had this massive high, and then I had kind of the start for me was in this massive crash. So whilst I was performing, I was overachieving, and I was doing too much. I was exercising too much. I wasn't eating properly. I didn't have my emotions in check. And, I kind of never really associated with being, anxious or an anxious person. I think there was some kind of association with the word. But internally, I was never happy. I wasn't good enough. Nothing that I did was good enough. I was an overachiever. So in hindsight, when we look at the concept of, someone who's has high functioning anxiety, you probably put me at the top of the list there, because I was also always known as a worrywart. Like, my family called me a worrywart. My cousin, I think when I was like 18, she went overseas into Ireland and bought me this little worry stone, because because I'm worried about everything, and I stress about everything. So, sometimes we don't necessarily associate with certain words, but, we act and behave in certain ways. So, I had all of this sort of history and stuff building up from all of these years, and then I got sick. I started off with glandular fever, and then I didn't get better and was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, and then I was diagnosed with Lyme disease, and then I had shingles and parasites and candida and heavy metal toxicity, and the list goes on and on and on. And my symptom list was like, it was so long. On one day, I jotted down 40 symptoms. And so I went from functioning, to not functioning. I couldn't read a 2-line email. I couldn't walk up 2 steps without having to take a breath. I couldn't function. I couldn't even know my husband's name. I sat at one lunchtime at home. We were sitting on the big table opposite each other,
Oh.
And I was like, I know you're my husband. I actually said it a lot slower than that, but I couldn't get his name out. So I had lots of problems with cognition and memory loss. And so, you know, the illnesses and the disease and the dis-ease that I had, you know, caused a lot of, you know, anxiety and stress in itself. But it's kind of like self-perpetuating. It's like, yes, I have this, but then there's all these, I'm not able to process and understand what was happening. So it's this kind of vicious circle. And I went through, tried all of these tools and techniques. And I know, Belinda, you've done the same thing. You've had quite, you know, an incredible healing and recovery journey. And you do kind of go on this path of because you can't function the way that you were. And it's, you know, it's like you're not living. So I went on and went, what food do I need to eat? What supplements do I need? What doctors, practitioners, what you know, yeah, what practitioners or therapies do I need to do, and colonics and acupuncture and the, you know, on and on and on. But one thing that I really missed and didn't look at for a long time was the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual side, because it's not just the physical side of things. You know, for some people, maybe it is, and it's just the nutrition side will get them over the line, and nutrition plays a huge role in anxiety. But for a lot of people, it's the mental, emotional, and spiritual. And I went, I don't want to talk to people about my problems or what I'm going through, because I have friends and family, like people know what I'm going through. I've got friends who are going through the same stuff. You know, we understand each other. I don't need someone to tell me, you know, you need to think like this or you need to do this. I'm like, no, and they don't understand. And it wasn't until I came across some of this energy psychology stuff that I realized that actually you can process these things without actually having to, like, what's the word? You know, standard talk therapy.
Yeah, and it's so important that we do both the nutrition and the mental. And sometimes, you know, it depends on where we are, but quite often we'll either do one or the other, but not both. Yeah.
And, you know, for some people, they just do the nutrition side and, you know, they're on their path. Some people, they just do the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual side, and they're on their path. And then sometimes, as you said, and often, because we're finding, you know, the gut affects the brain and the brain affects the gut. Everything is interlinked and interconnected. So, you know, we're not just our physical body, we're our emotional body, our mental body, and our energetic body. So sometimes, you know, there's a component that's out of balance.
Definitely.
Or different parts of those aspects are out of balance.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. And that can be really hard to pinpoint as well, especially if you're like you say, you're in the depths of despair, because I've been there myself, and, you know, in a lot of pain and inflammation, and, you know, your brain's not thinking, and you're in this deep, dark pit of depression. That's not really the time that you feel like dealing with your emotions, but that's probably the time that you should be.
You said it so perfectly. Because what happens, you know, we talk about from a cellular level and a communication perspective. If you've got all that inflammation, you can't get out of bed, you can't think, or whatever symptoms you have, then what happens? You go, I've got this symptom. And, you know, what emotions come up with having these symptoms? You know, I feel so depressed. I'm never going to get out of this. You know, I've been here for so long. I'm never going to get well. It's so painful. And so then, you know, just thoughts become beliefs. Those beliefs then transfer into emotions where you feel it. And we know that emotions are stored in the body, not just in the mind and in the nervous system. And then it's this self-perpetuating circle. And it's that communication to all of the cells. So if you're communicating in your mind, or you have this feeling that you don't feel well and you're focusing on it, then you're communicating to your cells and to your body, I'm really sick. I don't feel well. This is too hard. I'm never going to get out of this. But if you're able to change that around and move through that, then you can communicate to your cells, actually, we can get through this. You know, there are other options. But sometimes just having a communication or talking, like I've just suggested, is actually not going to get you out of it. Sometimes you need a little bit of that energy psychology work to actually help you process that.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're on live, let us know live. We have got 6 or 8 viewers at the moment. So
Beautiful.
Let us know where you're coming in from, and just say hello. And let us know if you have ever suffered from stress and anxiety as well. So yeah. So what sort of techniques do you use, Lisa, to help alleviate these problems, like on a psychological level? Because a lot of people know that I work on a physiological level, and that's why I'm bringing in other people, because it's so important. The mental side is really, really important to work on as well. And this is not really my field, so I'm bringing on beautiful people like Lisa to help us with the stress and anxiety on a psychological level.
Yeah. So, and for those who are on as well, if you have any questions, feel free to pop those in the chat, because we can always discuss them and go through them, because for a number of people, these are new concepts. So you mentioned that you work on a physiological level, and a lot of these tools and techniques actually do work on a physiological level as well, but we're not aware of that. Science is just catching up. So there's the science of psychoneuroimmunology, which is the science behind relaxation techniques on the brain, the nervous system, the immune system, and the endocrine system.
Yep.
And so things like breathing and breath work has an amazing impact on physiology, right down to DNA. What else do we have? We have breath work. We have yoga, and movement is really good. I like, so when we talk about energy, I like a lot of energetic tools and techniques and things that happen physically with the body. So moving energy by certain movements that are based on that energetic perspective. Obviously, walking and your standard exercise are all good, because they help to move and shift energy. Because when we're stuck, or we're sitting still, or we're stuck in illness, then we're not moving, and our energy's not moving, so the thoughts can't move, the emotions can't move. But one of my favorite tools and techniques, which you know of, and you and your family do, Belinda, is EFT, emotional freedom technique.
Love it.
Yeah, also known as tapping. And so this is one of the most powerful tools and techniques in terms of energy psychology. And the other one is something called brain spotting, or it comes through from a process called EMDR, which is, what happens is, brain spotting is about accessing certain parts of the brain which access certain parts of the body and the nervous system. And we know that our eyes and our eye movement, when you have your eyes in a particular position, they access a particular part of the brain. So when we have experiences or events in our life that sort of we get stuck in, then this brain spotting process allows you to tap into that and your brain to process it and let it go and release it in a really, really gentle way. So this brain spotting and this EFT process is really great, because it's also non-traumatizing. Because obviously I mentioned earlier, the body doesn't know the difference between when an event occurred and kind of when you're talking about it. So it's like, well, how can you process this and not be traumatized? And these techniques and tools are absolutely amazing for working through that. And so, I'm also trauma informed as well, because a lot of practitioners don't realize that the impact of, certain traumas or events. Some people might think, oh, that's not a trauma, but their body is processing it like a trauma. And go for it.
Well, there's just been, we've spoken about brain spotting before, and I always found it very fascinating. We've never used it on me or anything, but it was very fascinating when you were talking about it, and when certain traumas happen in your life, it brings your eyes to a certain level, and it really does. When you were telling me about it the first time, I was thinking about things that had happened in my life, and I'd be like, oh, this is interesting, like just fascinating the way it works.
Yeah. So when we were talking before we jumped on about, you had quite a stressful day today because there's a number of things that happened. And so if you think about that, we won't get into a lot of detail here, but if you think about that, just see where your eyes go in terms of looking for a spot with your eyes that feels really calm in relation to that, this whole, I've got so much to do.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like just above the horizon.
Okay.
So like,
yeah. So when you look at that spot, does it feel relaxing or does it feel activating?
No, it feels relaxing.
Okay. So what I'll get you to do is I'll get you to have a look at another spot in relation to this. I've got so much to do, this stress and overwhelm, that feels activating.
And that's down to my left side.
Yeah. So it's really amazing how, something so simple as that, obviously there's a lot more to the process, but it gives you a bit of, and those who are watching, a really good insight into sort of how the process works. So, your body and your brain stores this information in different ways. So you have this spot up here. This is where you get your resources and your inner strength for processing those, thoughts, feelings, and emotions and experiences. And you have this spot down here, which is the, activating, I'm living in it and I'm trying to process it spot.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so, it is amazing. And I came to these techniques because I experienced them myself, through searching, and found practitioners and went, oh my goodness, here are the solutions. This is not just talking about things where my brain is stuck in this. This is actually helping my brain to become unstuck.
Yeah. Yep. So I've just got a few comments here on our Facebook group. Lisa. So Danielle says science in North America is keep people on prescription medications. It makes me so sad. And she's right. And Julie says, yes, it's the same. Give us a pill.
Yeah. And so and so just on that, if we comment on that, modern medicine, the way that it's structured is very much about, they have a particular methodology, and it doesn't look at us as a whole. It looks at things individually. And then also, the amount of time that doctors and practitioners have with people. It's like, okay, you've got this problem, there's a pill for that, because it's also funded and really supported by the pharmaceutical industry. Now, I'm not against modern medicine because it is amazing, if you have a cut or you have an accident, go to hospital, but there's also other ways of looking at things. I can't comment on obviously I'm not a doctor, so I can't say to people, you should be on this medication or you should come off this medication. But just like yourself, Belinda, like, what is the root cause of the anxiety? Sometimes it is biochemical. And so sometimes people do need to be on medication, but are you also looking at the additional aspects to look at the root cause? And so much of it is related to trauma, and the other part is nutrition.
Yeah. And Jess had a question. Jess says, what is brain spotting? I've never heard of it.
Yeah. So just let us know whether the discussion that we've just had, whether you have any more questions and whether we've explained it enough for you. So brain spotting comes out of sort of somatic therapy and psychotherapy. And so somatic therapy is about the body. So a lot of tools and techniques and methodologies are based on, the brain and the thinking and the thought and talking you through that. Whereas somatics is about the body. And so that we know that emotions are actually stored in different parts of the body, organs, tissues, the nervous system. So it's about accessing those parts of the body and being able to release it. So not just from a brain perspective, but from a body perspective as well. Because if you often, what I see and find and sort of, other people talk about as well, is that when you have a resolution in the mind, if you haven't processed it from a body perspective, then often it can still be there because you haven't processed those feelings and emotions that are stuck and suppressed in the body.
Yeah, that's right. We're actually running a 6-week program right now. It started last Friday, and if you want to pop in, you still can. It's never too late. But this week is all about talking about how we can release those emotions that are actually been stuck. And, this is not really my area. I'm just giving some people some tools to try out to see what modalities actually suit them. And so if you're in my program, I think I've got 1 or 2 ladies on watching live at the moment, and that's what we're working through right now. It's quite interesting to see what comes up, because one thing we did yesterday was literally just writing affirmations on the mirror. And the 3 that I give ladies are to talk to themselves. I tell them to look in the mirror and say, I love you, I forgive you, I accept who you are. And for some people, that's really, really difficult to even do when you're not comfortable in your own skin and you've had so much going on in your life. And trying to release some of these emotions can be really difficult to do when we don't really know how to.
Yeah, absolutely. And there can be a lot of trauma associated with that. And so affirmations are fantastic. And there's a concept, and I'm just doing some training at the moment in CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, which is this, this repetition. So it's the cognition, so changing the cognition and then your behaviors. And so what you're suggesting is the cognition in terms of the words, and the behavior looking at the mirror and repeating these words. And so, this has been for many, many years, like one of the leading evidence-based techniques for helping and supporting people. And now we have these new techniques which are becoming more advanced in terms of the EFT and the brain spotting. But what I found is I'm an advocate for affirmations if you believe them. If you don't believe them, it can cause, and only because of my own personal experience as well, it can cause this additional tension, because where your thoughts and energy goes in terms of, these affirmations, if they don't feel right and they feel really heavy, then you're saying it, but your whole, like my body, I would say these affirmations, and my whole body would like tighten up. And so, and then it was reinforcing that negative aspect, even though I was saying that positive stuff. And so this process of brain spotting and EFT helps you to be able to clear that and process, the reason or the story behind it. So then you can say that positive affirmation.
That's right. And I've been there too, there's been times where I'd write this lovely, beautiful 3-sentence affirmation, and I couldn't even get through the first sentence before I'm like, oh, it does not, I cannot do this. So I've been there. It's quite interesting that you say that.
Yeah. And as you say, then it's all about what works for you. So, that's really beautiful. I was trying to think of a few more techniques to use, but yeah, affirmations are great, but make sure they're aligned. Journaling is great if that works for you as well. So there are always lots of simple tools and techniques. But one thing that I think is really, really important is there is a lot of these tools and techniques and these self-help tools and techniques, but I find often that people need more guided support. And that's also important to acknowledge. Like, when is it that, you implement some of these things that yourself and that is enough, versus when is it that you need some additional support?
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Belinda, I don't know how we're going for time, and I don't know if you're open to giving everyone a little bit of a demo.
Sure, why not?
So do we have any more questions or feedback online?
Let me check. So Barbara says hi from California. Jess says, very interesting, thank you. And Linda says, energy medicine is the way to go. So no more questions yet, but people quite often jump on during the day and comment all day. So
yeah. Linda, let us know what your experience is with energy medicine. So maybe maybe there's some things that you do, because not a lot of people know about energy medicine. So I'd be really interested. Right. Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to do an example. I mean, obviously we're talking about, stress, anxiety, overwhelm, and Belinda's had a little bit of, there's a lot going on for Belinda. There's a lot of chaos going on. Did you want to share any of that, Belinda? If not,
yes, I'm always sharing with my beautiful followers here. So this morning, let's start with yesterday afternoon. Yesterday afternoon, our pet dog passed away. She's very young, and we're not exactly sure what happened. We believe it was some sort of poisoning, whether it be snake bite, spider bite, or possibly even there's been a mice plague around here lately, and so everyone's been laying mice baits everywhere. So we don't know whether that's played a factor in it. And this morning at 5 o'clock, got up, went for my 5-kilometre walk with hubby, did my meditation, and while I was doing my meditation, my husband was digging the hole for the burial. So we had the funeral this morning. Kids were very upset and, you know, emotional, and I want to let them feel that pain so that they can deal with it correctly, because when I was younger, that wasn't always an option in our household. And then my daughter is doing show and share at kindergarten, so I've got literally a box of guinea pigs right here, which I have to go and do after this video. And then my son is at home finishing off some baking. I hope he doesn't burn down the house, because we actually have a homeschooling end of year event to go to in about, let's say, 20 minutes. So yeah, a little bit chaotic.
So a lot of chaos, stress, overwhelm. So before we chatted, you said that stress was about a 6 out of 10. The overwhelm was about a 7 or 8 out of 10. Does that still feel right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of an example of tapping here. I've got Belinda to obviously rate out of 10 how distressed she was feeling in relation to the stress and the overwhelm, and in terms of how much she has to do. And there are a lot of words that she gave me in terms of, I've got so much to do, so much thinking, you know, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, this blah feeling, you know, it's just crazy, crazy, crazy. And there's a few other words. So we're going to use her words in this tapping, this EFT process. And she also said that in terms of visualization, she sensed that she had this tight feeling in her brain, her limbs, and her chest. Yep, cool. And also what came up for her is I got her to tune into her body in those areas, the brain, the limbs, and the chest, to see how it felt and what, you know, colours or shapes and things came up for her. And she said it was wavy, it was blue, like a royal blue, and the size of like a shrub or a bush. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through this tapping process using a lot of those concepts, and then we're going to come back and re-rate that for Belinda afterwards. And if you're watching, as long as you're not driving or when you're in a nice relaxed place, tap along, because maybe you can rate for yourself if you've got stress and overwhelm out of 10, how you're feeling, where it is that you might feel that in your body. Is there a colour that comes up for you in your body? What texture is it? What shape is it? How big is it? And if you're watching this as a replay, you can stop it obviously as you go along and just jot that down, and then come along with us, because there's this thing called borrowed benefits where you actually, you know, those who are tapping along, their body will process and benefit from whatever it is that we're doing and relates to them. Are you ready?
Good.
Okay, so we're going to start tapping on what we call the side of the hand. Sometimes I say karate chop point, and repeating after me, even though I have so much to do.
I have so much to do.
And we love adding emotion in there and feeling. So, you know, if you're just like, oh, I have so much to do, whatever the emotion is and the feeling, just go with it, because it helps to process it more than saying, even though I feel like I have so much to do, you know, if that's how you're feeling, great. But if you're like, oh, then let it all out.
Let it out.
Yeah, I've got all this stress and overwhelm in my body.
I've got all this stress and overwhelm in my body.
I feel it in my brain, my limbs, and my chest.
I feel it in my brain, my limbs, and my chest.
And even though all of this, I choose to relax now.
I choose to relax now.
To be in control.
To be in control.
To think clearly.
To think clearly.
And to be present for the kids.
And to be present for the kids.
Even though
I
have so much to do.
I have so much to do.
I have this stress and overwhelm.
I have this stress and overwhelm.
And I feel it in my limbs, my chest, and my brain.
And I feel it in my limbs, my chest, and my brain.
I choose to relax and be in control.
I choose to relax and be in control.
To be able to think clearly.
I missed that. There's cars going past.
To be able to think clearly.
To be able to think clearly.
And be present with the kids.
And be present with the kids.
And we say this one more time. Even though
I
have so much to do.
I just have so much to do.
All this stress and overwhelm.
All this stress and overwhelm.
I feel it in my brain, my limbs, and my chest.
I feel it in my brain, my limbs, and my chest.
I choose to relax and be in control.
I choose to relax and be in control.
To be able to think clearly.
To be able to think clearly.
And be present with the kids.
And be present with the kids.
I'm going to go tapping on the top of the head, this stress and overwhelm.
Feel stressed and overwhelmed.
Releasing this stress and overwhelm.
Releasing the stress and overwhelm.
Clearing, clearing, clearing.
Clearing, clearing, clearing.
There's so much to do.
There's so much to do.
There's so much thinking.
There's so much thinking.
This blah.
This blah.
Is never having enough time.
Is never having enough time.
I'm going to tap under the arm here, which is in line with the breast. This, what do I have to do next?
This, what do I have to do next?
And then we're going to go back to the top of the head. This, where do I have to go?
This, where do I have to go?
This whole thinking process.
This whole thinking process.
This crazy, crazy, crazy.
This crazy, crazy, crazy.
So much thinking.
So much thinking.
Blah.
Blah.
Crazy, crazy, crazy.
Crazy, crazy, crazy.
Never enough time.
Never enough time.
Releasing, releasing, releasing.
Releasing, releasing, releasing.
Breathing in. Breathing out.
That's better.
So just tuning into, even though I've got so much to do, the level of stress out of 10, what would that level of stress be now?
It's about a 3.
About a 3 from 6. And what about the overwhelm?
It's probably about a 3 as well.
A 3. Yeah, beautiful. And how does your brain feel now?
Slower.
You mean in terms of calmer?
Yeah, just like relaxed.
Relax, yeah. What about your limbs?
Well, my fingers aren't like shaking anymore.
Yeah, yeah. And what about your chest?
Yeah, no, that feels good too.
Yeah, okay. And so in relation to this colour that came up for you, it was a blue, wavy, royal blue, like a dark blue, and the size of a shrub, a bush. What comes up for you now?
Pale blue. And about the size of a balloon. And floating.
Floating. Yeah, amazing, amazing. So that's what, I mean, it's a really beautiful, quick example. I mean, this is not, this is not a therapy session or whatnot, but it's just so beautiful that within a few minutes, we did 2 rounds of the EFT tapping process, and your level of stress and overwhelm has gone from a 6 and an 8 down to a 3.
Yeah.
Just like that.
I have to say I do use it regularly, but not as regularly as I should.
and that's for everybody. That's for everybody. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I've been trying to teach my children, so I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, it's such a great tool to teach kids, because it helps them to regulate. So when they get emotional and they have, big, strong emotions and feelings or, distress, it helps them to regulate their own body and their own nervous system. And it's really important that we're taught this, especially with so much stress, anxiety and overwhelm. There's so much going on. It's a really simple and powerful tool. And, you focus on the physiology of the body. This also helps the physiology of the body in another way. There is evidence to support how it impacts the immune system, calms the brain, the amygdala, the nervous system. And it can also be used for a lot of those physical symptoms. So, you said, your limbs were shaking. And so, for people who have pain, this is amazing for pain as well. And so, you can work on those physical symptoms, or, I've got all this brain fog and the brain fog's not going away, for example.
Yeah. Yep. Very good.
Thank you
for joining us.
My pleasure. Any last questions that anyone has or comments?
Let's just have a quick look, because I'm on Zoom right now, so I'll scroll through and have a look. My sister's online and she says, oh no, because I haven't actually told my family.
Hi, family.
Hi, family. Yes, our dog died.
Oh, yeah.
But no more comments or questions just yet, and that's just in the group. So I've shared this to the to my personal profile and to my page, so I can't really see the comments there until later. But anyway, I'm sure we'll scroll through them later.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me, Belinda. It's always, great to be able to share the message and connect with people in relation to, understanding anxiety and stress and how the body works, and also that there is another way and there are alternatives.
Yeah, there definitely are. So thank you for joining me, and I'm sure we'll have you on again. And I'm sure a lot of people will love to hear more about the brain spotting too. So
yeah,
you can line a session up about that another time.
Great. If anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out. Facebook, Instagram, Lisa Gumieniuk.
Very good. Yes. Cool. Well, thank you very much, and I'll see you all very shortly.
Thanks.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.